Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
We're back for our second show this week, and it's gonna be a doozy. We got a lot of questions lined up, so look forward to some of these things getting answered finally. All of these are from the stream we did back at the end of August. So if you were participating in that live stream and still had some answers or still wanted some answers to your burning questions, this is the episode for you. So, should we just jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Alrighty then. Here's this question from Creppy Infinite. Is there a possibility that past events from the games are going to be represented in different ways in the comics?
Maybe. We did a little bit towards the beginning of the series, but that was with special considerations. We may do it again in the future, but I think the general direction is to, now that we've kind of established the comic world, just to kind of run with it.
Alrighty. Here's a question from The Acquainted Guy. With the announcement of Imposter Syndrome, there's been some worries that the next camping arc might be filler. So I just wanted to ask, does it add to the overall storyline?
I'm not calling you out, Acquainted Guy. I'm not shooting the messenger. I just want folks listening to the show to stop and think for a minute. Do you really think that Evan and IDW are going to write a filler arc that takes place every other month to a side story? Do you really think that's what they're going to purposefully do with all that time and money?
I don't know.
No.
I'm not IDW or Evan. I don't know what's going on.
There's enough drama on the internet as it is. Don't invent imaginary slights for a story that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Like there is absolutely no foundation to that other than just to make people angry at a thought. Just don't do that. It makes me very tired.
Here's a question from Sega Genesis 1991. How would you incorporate Bokoon from Sonic X into the series? Would he be the baby bro to Orbot and Cubot?
I don't know about baby bro, because Bokoon was juvenile, but not infantile. I'd kind of like to know what Bokoon is. But the obnoxious younger sibling might be a fit between the two of them. But Orbot and Cubot themselves don't come across as particularly mature, I guess. There is a bit of the family dynamic there, but I wouldn't go too far with Orbot and Cubot. There's still more hired help than anything else.
Here's one from Marshall H. If you were allowed to use the original Gamma in some way, in spite of, his death, what do you think you'd do in the IDW world? Assume you only keep him for one arc or 4 issues.
At that point, I don't see a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because Gamma's story was told in Adventure, and if we're only keeping him for an arc, and it's the original one who didn't die for some reason, I don't know. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that one. Like the importance of Gamma was his self-sacrifice, and that's kind of his story. That's kind of his thing, and that's why I kind of wanted to get to Chaos Gamma later, because it is a corruption of that purpose. It's robbing a grave, basically. So to do that, but it's actual Gamma for just an arc, I don't know. I really don't know.
The most you could probably do with that amount of time would just be a retelling of the story from Sonic Adventure.
Which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, because that story is how old at this point?
20 years, 22 years, actually.
Yeah.
23 if you want to go back to 98 being the release date for the Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure 1 in Japan. So, yeah.
So, kids born during Adventure's release can buy a drink now in most countries. So it's not exactly fresh material.
Right. It does get lauded around as being one of the better moments of storytelling in a Sonic game, though. So, I don't know. Here's one from System 509. Does IDW have plans to adapt future game storylines?
I don't know, because we don't know when the next game's coming out. Team Sonic Racing got a standalone, but it's not exactly a pillar of the greater mythos. So I don't know. That really depends on what Sega wants and what IDW wants, and whenever those stars align.
All right, here's one from MilesTPerHour, Tails himself, sending in a question. Antoine versus YammyM. Who's your favorite coyote, and who would win in a fight?
Wily's got to be my favorite of the two,
Yeah.
but Antoine will win purely through a comedy of errors. You see, Wile Coyote, super genius, has been contracted to take out the Freedom Fighter, and so he goes through his entire Acme arsenal trying to destroy the poor oblivious Antoine. But in classic Roadrunner fashion, nothing Wile actually does will succeed. And so Antoine survives, blissfully unaware of how many brushes of death he just had.
Of course. Perfect.
I am imagining that he is a bit miffed. These strange things are happening around him, and it is obviously Sonic trying to make a fuel out of him. Completely unaware that 40-ton boulder missed by like an inch.
Yeah.
And has Wily underneath it.
Uh-huh.
What is with this fountain pen? Why does it have a fuse on it? What a stupid place to put a fuse on a fountain pen. I would toss it over my shoulder and find a more proper pin. Boom! And there goes Wily.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You get meep with a French accent.
Meep? Why would Antoine say meep?
Yes.
Sacre bleu cheese. Never would he say such a thing. Apologies to Rob Paulson.
Yeah. Uh-oh. What'd she say?
She said, how about apologies for France?
Oh. Nah. Here's a question from SonicToast. Big the Cat is hidden all over in Sonic Adventure 2. Would you ever consider writing a story during the events of that game, explaining why he's in all those odd locations?
Yes and no. Yes, because that would be a lot of fun to try to figure out and just make one big goofy story. On the other hand, that's kind of like explaining the joke.
Yeah.
It could be funny. It could be. But it could also run the risk of just being, here's the canonical explanation for all the goofiness, and that's not quite as funny as just the cameos. So I would be happy to, but I'm also happy to let it lie.
Alrighty. And here's one from Pity Studios. What do you think would happen if Sonic had coffee?
Here's the thing, he already has. And in that point of time, he has transcended all time.
Uh-huh.
He is with us now. He is with us before. He is with us after. Just once we reach that caffeinated event horizon, the idea of Sonic as we know it ceases to be.
Right. He has ascended all planes of existence. I mean, sure. Sounds right to me.
That or his metabolism burns through it so fast he doesn't even get a buzz.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. I mean, if you want to go Flash on it all. There's one from SyedC. Thoughts on the Sonic Bible / Fleetway origin, where Sonic and Eggman are friends / father and son before becoming enemies? I feel like IDW Metal and Eggman are an echo of this.
Yes to the former, not seeing it really on the latter. I do remember that comic and just going, oh, okay, so that's the origin, and being really confused when it wasn't used anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's a neat take on the mythos, and it would be really interesting if, that were carried over into today. Like, what if that was the standard? Or what if Sega comes out of nowhere and revisits the idea, we have a plan for the Sonic and Eggman origin. Okay, what is it? It's that one. Oh, okay, man, if that happens, oh well. What was I saying earlier about getting mad over ideas that aren't happening?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that dynamic with current Eggman and Metal though. Like we've played with the whole proud papa thing a bit, but that's more of a gag. That's not really their dynamic. He's proud of his work, but it's not really a truly familial sense.
Yeah. Here's one from Stefan N. Is there a difference between the way you write Classic Sonic compared to the way you write Modern? And also, compared to IDW Classic and Mega Drive Archie, is there any difference?
Classic, I imagine, is a trifle bit snarkier and definitely more cartoonish in his expressions, whereas Modern is, I think, a little more patient and understanding and slightly more grounded as far as, a cartoon series can be.
Sure.
As for Mega Drive versus IDW Classic, no, that they're the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And here's a question from PedroN. I have one question. How did Shadow discover how to use the Chaos Control in a Chaos Emerald?
That is a good question. Like, when was he trained with this? When did he ever do any of this? Did Gerald have a Chaos Emerald on the Ark and say, okay, touch it and say the magic word, see what happens? Like, how did I don't know. Because we know that he has the ability, because it's a genetic trait of the Black Arms. Why? I don't know. Let's just run with it. So maybe it's instinctual, but he sure seemed confident about it in SA2. Now, this is trying to apply continuity retroactively here, because I don't think when they were writing SA2, they were thinking about Shadow's game and those connections. But I don't know, like, canonically, when did Shadow learn to actually control Chaos Control? I don't know.
Maybe it's just an innate thing. Whatever.
Maybe.
Like Sonic Speed,
Yeah. And I mean, he's got the swagger to present it as if he always knew how to do it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Of course I know how to do Chaos Control. I'm the ultimate life form.
But then Sonic can do it too.
Tutorials are for inferior beings.
Yeah. He'll never tell you. You don't deserve to know. Here's a question from moenm. Are there mandates or limitations for Sega's female Sonic characters to have different outfits other than their Sonic Channel outfits?
That has fluctuated a lot over the years. In the old Archie days, it was like hard and fast. You couldn't change their outfits. Not even stuff that appeared on Sonic Channel. And we actually had to like fight for any kind of small changes. And now it seems to be a bit more relaxed. Like, I think Evan got some of their winter outfits in her first run without a lot of hassle. I think you'd have to ask her directly. But it seems like they're loosening up on that. I don't think we can like invent whole outfits for them. We probably have to stick to stuff that's been in game or other official material, but that's me guessing. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I mean, it's kind of silly because like there's literally an entire Mario game where you can just dress up Mario in random outfits. And he's still clearly Mario. You're not like diminishing his iconic status. You're not making him less recognizable. So I think you could really have a lot more fun with different outfits for Sonic characters. And Sega's just being weird. But
that and some of the designs that have come up on Sonic Channel are just freaking cool. Like that long coat and beret that Rouge had in one of them. That's classy as all get out. That was cool. So,
and then the alternate outfits in the mobile games and stuff too. Those are really good. Like Treasure Hunter Knuckles. You gotta have the hat.
But like I said, they seem to be loosening up on that, so I find that encouraging.
That's good. That's good. Here's one from Mayan Frider 100,000. Almost shorted you by 90,000 there, Mayan Frider. Whoops. Whatever happened to Ray and Mighty in the modern world?
I don't know. If the classic embargo ever lifts, then they were always in the modern world, and here they are. And if it doesn't, then I imagine they're somewhere out there just doing their thing. It's a big planet. We don't see everyone all the time.
Sure. And a question here from Mystery Flavor. If Jewel was able to fight alongside Sonic and friends, what would she attack with? Does she have any superpowers?
Jewel is not a fighter. And if she ever was in an instance where she absolutely had to fight, I imagine it would still be in a fairly passive role. But in my mind, thinking of her in a game mechanic sense, because when creating her, it's like, okay, if Tangle is a playable character and is roughly like the Avatar character in Forces with the grapple hook, except it's her tail, what would be a good companion character? Because with Sonic and Tails, Sonic can run and jump and all that, but if you miss a jump or there's a ledge that's too high to normally jump to, Tails facilitates his vertical movement with the flight. That's his role in terms of mechanics. So if Tangle's ability is to grapple to places, what would facilitate that would be a mobile anchor point for her to grapple to. And that's what Jewel would be, is that she would be a flying point for her to grapple to. So in a offensive capability, I imagine that she could kind of hunker down and use that hard gleaming shell, kind of like a bullet casing, so that Tangle could just whip shot her into a Badnik potentially.
Nice.
Kind of like the way that Charmy could just like dive bomb anybody in any direction back in Knuckles Chaotix. Now, character-wise, Jewel doesn't like that. She doesn't want that to happen. She's, happy to support Tangle and fling her to wherever she wants to go, but she doesn't want to fight. She doesn't want to be flung into things. She certainly does not want to fight. So, in terms of a game role, that's what I envision. But story-wise, she would avoid a fight as much as possible.
Yes. All right, and our final question before we take a quick break here is going to be from Darkness Rising 24. If Metal Knuckles is limited to the classic era, could you possibly still use Mecha Knuckles from Sonic Advance in the modern era?
Number one, just to be clear, I don't know if he's classic exclusive. I hope not. But, like you said, if he is, I would assume it's okay to use Mecha Knuckles. I mean, I haven't tried, but maybe. I mean, it would make as much sense as anybody else.
Yeah, I suppose. We need our Metal Knuckles. We need a Robot Knuckles counterpart. Need him. I remember how awesome he looked in Metal Sonic.
The Mecha Madness fight?
Mecha Madness, yeah. Remember how awesome he looked in that?
That was because it's Patrick Spaziante, man.
I know, but still. Like, man, they both looked really awesome. But, yeah, it's just, yeah. Design was so good.
The thing with Mecha Knuckles is, if you look at the Mecha Sonic line, there's very distinct model changes between each version.
Right.
So it would stand to reason that a Mecha Knuckles version 2 would look very different than his advanced version. And on the one hand, would Sega allow us to do that? And on the other hand, considering what they did for Blaze's Palace and some of the other design work they've done to help us out, would they design a Mecha Knuckles 2.0 for us? I am tempted to just do that just to see if we could get an official design, because that would be metal as hell. Excuse me, mecha as hell.
Are we also going to get Metal Blaze? I'd be down for that. Bringing up Blaze.
Oh, I want to see medals of everybody. Really.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. I mean, we got a little taste of that with the crossovers with Mega Man, but yeah, we need more. I mean, why not? Even Sonic Boom did it.
Yep.
Anyway, we are gonna take off for a quick minute, and then we will be right back with more BumbleKast right after this. All right, let's jump right back into it here with Six Claude. Since what-if stories are gaining ground in the Marvel Universe, if you had the opportunity to write a what-if story in the IDW Universe, what story arc would it be?
We covered this fairly recently.
Yeah.
And we were kind of spoiled for choice.
I think one of them was, what if Blaze was in Sonic's position and in the universe? Like, what if they switched?
Mm-hmm. What if Shadow was full on black arms?
Mm-hmm.
What if he had taken over the invasion? What if he had risen to the top of the android empire?
Pretty much all of Shadow's game is what if stories.
Yeah. What if Knuckles had been the one to raise Tails instead of Sonic?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if any of the boss characters had succeeded in any of the games?
Eggman did win once. He took over the world entirely, pre-Forces. Yeah. But, I mean, then he obviously lost all the power because, Sonic.
That one's less of a what if and more of a I want to see what the 6-month war was.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, we got to leave out the more interesting part. Wouldn't be a Sonic game if we did that. If we didn't do that, I should say.
Here's one that I don't think we covered.
Mm-hmm.
What if Tikal didn't take after her grandmother, but took after her father and was just as much a warmonger?
We'd have Chaos Tikal.
Maybe.
I like it. I'm into it. All right, here we go. Here's another one. Question here from Without a Plan. Redesigning the Fleetway cast to fit in the IDW world, specifically Ebony the Cat, Commander Brutus, and Moraine Blackthorn, what would you do with them?
First thing I would do is give it to someone who actually does the art, because I am not an artist and I would not trust myself to do those at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I were, I don't know, championing them, I guess, kind of in a editorial seat, Ebony and Moraine, I think, could be converted to the Sega style fairly easily. Ebony might have to skew more towards Blaze, but I don't know. I don't see that being too terribly a divergence from her look. I don't know. The one that had to change the most would be Brutus, I think, because he looks like a 90s Doctor Doom ripoff, basically. I'm not sure whether he would need to skew more towards like a proper Eggbot, or if you could do something that was still fairly unique but closer to the brand. But I feel like someone with actual artistic skill would be able to tackle this a lot better than I could.
Thanks. Here's a question from Godzilla. Between Snively, Leonda, Orbot, and Cubot, Scratch and Grounder, Dr. Starline, and Agent Stone, in your opinion, rank Eggman's lackeys?
Oh, goodness. Snively's number one. No contest.
Mm-hmm.
He's had the most interesting highs and lows. He's had the closest brushes with victory. He has the most interesting dynamic and design. Snively's the best. I love Snively.
As far as like serious sidekicks to Eggman, yeah, he's probably the best.
In terms of foils, I guess Orbot and Cubot second, because I just like the way their interplay is with Eggman. It really is just endlessly fertile ground to have fun with. It's not nearly as deep as any of the others, to be sure, but it works very well. They work well as incidental foils to Eggman. Snively is his own character, to be sure, but they work very well just to bolster Eggman as a character himself. And to that degree, Scratch and Grounder are kind of a close third, because they were good foils to that version of Robotnik.
Yep.
And they are definitely more aggressive in their efforts than Orbot and Cubot would ever be. They're more Looney Tunes, but they're definitely more of an active threat than Orbot and Cubot would ever be.
Yeah.
Starline, I'll put in fourth, because he hasn't really done a lot for Eggman. Like, sure, he's got charisma, but what did he really do during his time with Eggman?
Right.
Like, that's the question. What did he do?
I don't know.
Like, he just kind of stood around. He stood around on the face ship and then got tired of the way the plan was going. So he went behind his back and brought in the Deadly Six, which made things much, much worse.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I guess Doc Agent Stone should go ahead of him because at least he can make a proper latte.
Yeah, it's true.
And Leon Da, it's hard to place her because, truth be told, she was kind of stapled onto the whole Eggman thing to make the Dark Legion relevant to the Sonic book. They were they were part of their own compartmentalized story for so long that it was a bit of a massage act to get them to fit with the Sonic book. Because remember, this is Sonic's book. It's about Sonic. She herself, her ambitions and her perpetual ability to make things worse for herself are certainly engaging. But in terms of her relationship with Eggman and the greater narrative, that is more the weaker link.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody who tried their best to link it all together. So in that regard, I guess I don't know. I'm not going to put her at the bottom of the list. She's just kind of like tangentially floating around the list.
amorphously existing on the list. I mean, that pretty much agree with you. I think I'd personally put Orbot and Cubot at the top just because of the way they play off modern Eggman is just perfect, but Snively is definitely up there too. So I don't know, could go either way. And I will always have a soft spot for the super special Sonic Search and Smash Squad.
Let me put it this way. And this really, supports both of our tiers, is that I could see Snively working within the Orbot and Cubot dynamic.
He could, yeah.
So either they're so well designed that they're easy to work with, or Snively is just that quintessential lackey that he fits in just about any configuration. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think? Comment below.
Exactly, yes. Engagement challenge. And here we have a question from Gracie C. Does Kit have sensitive hearing due to being a fennec fox?
Sure. But not like any kind of super hearing. He's not like Sonar.
Here's a question from Virtual Edge. Since Mimic was brought over from Archie, are there any plans for Null and Cortez in IDW?
Just to be clear, and I'm not singling you out, Virtual. I'm just making clear to folks listening because sometimes you need to specify these things. It's not like Mimic had a set design or purpose in the Archie books. He was a nebulous idea that I wanted to use back in the Archie days. Never got around to it. And with IDW, I had a chance to actually formalize and do something with it. It's not like we just transplanted a fully fledged idea. It was, I want a shape-shifting villain octopus. Okay, where does that fit in Archie Sonic? I don't know yet. Oh, there's no more Archie Sonic. Well, what if I were to try it in IDW? Okay, now it fits. With Null and Cortez, they actually had more thought put into them. Null, maybe, because he was more associated with Blaze. So if we could get Sega approval, we could maybe do something with that. Cortez was built entirely around Antoine's character, so we don't have Antoine. So we're not going to have Cortez.
Well, dang. Really, really, really annoyed that the book was just unceremoniously cut off the knees like that.
Yep.
Madeline Blue Star 7 has a question. Does Knuckles have a designated shelter, or does he live in the wilderness similarly to Boom Knuckles? I'm referring to Knuckles in the main series and IDW Sonic.
As far as I know, he just kind of lives out in the open. Like, just kind of chills out on the Master Emerald come rain or shine. I haven't been instructed otherwise.
Well, we saw what happens when he tried to have a house in Boom, and it did not end well, so... It didn't start very well either, to be fair. Here's a question from Gab Sam. Silver and Blaze spin-off comic, when?
Ask IDW, man. Tell them what you want to see, and we'll see if something happens.
Yes. And here's a question from Necromage. Why didn't Dr. Starline join Eggman before or during Sonic Forces?
Don't take this as canon, but I'm tickled by the idea that he was one of the bajillions that were arrested by the Eggman Empire, and he just enjoyed his time in captivity. He gets to see Eggman's work firsthand.
Yeah.
Oh, he's being oppressed in such horrible ways. Isn't this delightful, everyone? Look at the squalor we're forced to endure. Classic Eggman.
The real reason is because, he didn't exist at that time.
Right.
But, in universe, trying to rationalize it. Anyway, Starline is a freak, yes. Here's a question from Robert H. When I hear Sonic Prime, I just think of Transformers. So what I want to know is, why did the Matrix make Sonic a Prime? What does he turn into? And does he raise blur often?
Who can really say the thinking behind the Matrix? Does it have a will of its own?
I don't know.
Its own consciousness? I leave that for you, for the Transformer fans to describe down below in the comments.
Yes.
But I imagine Sonic, if he doesn't just turn into a tire, kind of like Kirby with the wheel power, I imagine it's like one of those standalone giant wheels. Have you seen those?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
All right. So I'm thinking something like that. And does he race blur? Come on, man.
Of course he does.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely does. He races everybody, but blur specifically.
Mm-hmm. I figured he'd just turn into his typical car design from all the racing games.
Maybe he could.
But that's not nearly as fun though. But yeah. And here's a question from Paper. Hey Ian, do you feel there's a substantial difference in how you write Sonic characters in Archie versus IDW?
If we're talking pre-reboot Archie, yeah. That Sonic came with a lot of baggage and was a product of just the ever-growing narrative from the 90s into the aughts. He was very much formed by all those creatives and the changes in the franchise itself over the years. So he was a big mishmash of various factors. Post reboot is pretty much synonymous with IDW Sonic, at least in my mind, because both were written with this kind of mindset of, okay, fresh start. Here is game styled modern Sonic.
Yeah. Here's a question from El Mango de Fuego. Would you ever like to expand upon anything from Blaze's dimension?
Yes.
That should go without saying.
Give me a Blaze book. Come on.
Uh-huh.
Let me explore the islands. Let me introduce new villains and heroes. Let me explore, the empire that she's supposed to rule. Are there rivals for the throne? Are there various countries? What cultures? Just give me a Blaze book. Just let me go nuts.
Need it now. I need it. Here's a question from our good buddy LBD Night Train. In the Archie days, there were plans to do a conclusion to Underground. Were there any similar thoughts for SyedC? If not, since it shared the cast of the comics, do you think it would have been able to go through more successfully?
First off, big hello to good friend David Oxford, LBD Night Train. He's a friend of the show.
Yes.
Check him out on Twitter at LBD_Night Train. That's NYTETRAYN. He does a lot of video game writing. He and his wife do video game streams. And they just recently put out a book with Dark Horse, I think. But it's the field guide to all the Mega Man X Reploids and Mavericks and whatnot. And it's a splendiferous book.
Yes, it's absolutely fantastic. I really want it. It looks
also
gorgeous.
Pick up their classic Robot Master Field Guide as well, because that's another excellent book. I used that a lot writing the Archie Sonic stuff. Not Archie Sonic, Archie Mega Man. So there you go. Go check him out and see what he's up to. Anyway, I think we had that idea on the table as a maybe. Part of the issue would be confusion over what version of the Freedom Fighters we would be using, because even at that point, SyedC was an old show. So to do a conclusion, a season 3 type of thing, we would have to specify that the freedom fighters that you had come to know in the book were not the same as the ones we were presenting in this kind of finale. And that would have been a concern. Also, the issue of referencing any older cartoon material, but I think that was the canceled Underground thing that kind of first clued us into, oh, that's going to be a problem going forward. So I feel like we had this discussion in me and the editor at the time, but I don't think we had any like formal plans to do it.
Alrighty. Well, here's a question from Chatty Fantome. In Sonic the Fighters, Amy's hammer is actually referred to as a magical hammer. Given she also does fortune telling and turns invisible, what are your thoughts on Amy's power set?
It's inconsistent and all over the board.
Pretty much.
Like, she can't spin dash or homing attack until she does. She can fly with that hammer in some games. Other times it's just a vaulting tool. Amy just needs to have a set move pool, you know? I know, they reference that. So, like, at this point, I don't think you can reconcile everything. I think you just have to kind of look at what works best for her and a gameplay potential. Bring Amy back, thank you very much. And go from there.
It seems like they're willing to kind of re-embrace the tarot card thing recently, since there's that recent cover art with her having tarot cards. So, I don't know. Maybe she's just all powerful. I don't know. Maybe she's like Thor, you know? Spins her hammer. And that's how she flies. Sure, why not? We'll go with that. And here's a question from Tayulanin SFD. Are ghosts in video games actual ghosts or something else? I've always thought that paranormal things don't really fit with the technology versus nature things. I assume they mean Sonic games.
Yeah. I mean, there's no evidence pointing to the contrary that they're just ghosts. And they're just a different aspect of nature. I mean, we've got Chaos Emeralds with unlimited power that have positive and negative emotional spins to them. I don't see that any more out of theme than ghosts.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, they're literally called boos, even.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm surprised that's stayed. I'm surprised that's flown this long, but whatever. And finally, our last question of the day and of this week comes to us courtesy of YammyM. Any game-only character that you really want to use in IDW but haven't gotten to yet?
I mean, we've covered Chaos Gamma way too much on this show. To call Chaos. I don't know. Like, I've played with most of the toys. There's not a lot that I'm like super chomping at the bit to get to. I would like to access, everything within the Sonic franchise at some point or another, as long as it's conducive to the story. But nobody's immediately springing to mind of, oh, why have I not been able to touch this holy chalice? I mean, some of the other ones that we've talked about on the show, like Marine and Styx, it's like, I mean, Styx is not a game exclusive, but it's like, okay, I've wanted to use them and have been told not right now. And it's like, okay, fine.
But when? Later. But when, though?
So they're on the to-do, but it's not like I'm bending over backwards to find an excuse to bring Marine into the narrative. She's fun, but she's not top-tier priority.
I disagree.
For me.
I'm kidding.
For me, I'll specify.
Styx is top-tier priority for me, but Marine, you can wait on her. And that's it for this edition of the BumbleKast.
Before we sign off, big thank you to all the patrons who make this show possible by patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or membership to YouTube. Big thank you to Daniel H., Alex P., James K., John B., Jennifer R., Robotnik Combs, Samuel P., Sam Cybercat, Torchbound, Justin G., Mike B., Coupland Crew 128, Diz Din, Diane W., Bradley TT, Andrew D., Scruffy Mad, Chris A., Sony, Salute Your Cat, John M., Noni, Dave M., Auth, Dawn B, YammyM, Sid Fritz, Lee HK, Lisa M, Silly String, Chevelle, J Frost, Piggy Bank, Jib, Hero of Light 13, Blue Title Gamer, Tick Tick, Justin S, Final, Neil, Ryan D, Speedweed, Jonathan D, Rachel W, Godzilla, Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Daniel B, Dapper the Dalek, Sonic, PC the Unicorn, Dove, Preston M, Red the Superdynamic, Pandolce, Fiona M, Joe S, Chad L, no, just Chad. Beg your pardon. That's Chase L after them. Jonathan R. Owen B.D. Ben Wolf's Bane. Renard Pixel. Les. Invade Turbo Tunis. Danny the Light Sapphire Scarlet. Turbo. Crooker. John the Real Waluigi. Noah S. Carlos. Louis J. Lexi Loves Jojo. Corjua Highwind. Callan Q. Spark Z. Fire Red XY. Kimiko. Bad Piggies Lover. Alphamon Oryukin. Michi. Michael. Zanderoni the Painter.
So many names. The list just keeps on growing. What's that?
So many wonderful people.
Exactly. Yes. All of them. Super, super amazing. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got. That's all that is to be had for this week. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next week for more priority Q&A on Monday and more standard Q&A on Wednesday.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.